probably recognize that as "O Come Emmanuel." We've been singing it every Sunday here at St. Matthew's Church as we light the Advent candles. Advent is a season of waiting in expectation and preparation for the coming of Christ. And our thoughts and our hopes and our dreams focus on the birth of the Christ child in Bethlehem. I'm often reminded this time of year of how a child's birth kindles those hopes and dreams in all of our hearts. I'm sure that was true for Mary and Joseph so many years ago. Mary was pregnant, but there was one problem. Joseph knew that he was not the father, and he decided that he would put her away quietly, which was his legal right to do. But then he has a dream in which an angel of the Lord speaks to him and tells him not to do that the child to be born was to be named Jesus, for he would save all of humankind from its sins. And his birth would be fulfillment of the ancient prophecy of Isaiah, chapter 7, verse 14, which said that a child would be born, a male child. His name would be Emmanuel, and that means God is with us. He would be born of a young girl or a virgin. The birth of Jesus is considered to be a fulfillment of that prophecy and forms the basis of the doctrine of the virgin birth of our Lord Jesus Christ and his deity or divinity. It is one of the central aspects of our faith in the church. Nevertheless, this passage in Isaiah 7:14 is one of the most controversial in all the Bible. And I'll tell you why. When I was baptized at the age of 7, I got a gift from my godparents, and that is this Bible I hold in my hand. It is the King James Version of the Bible, and in it is the prophecy of Isaiah. I'd like to read it to you. Therefore, the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. A few years later, I was confirmed and got another Bible as a gift, the Revised Standard Version, which had replaced the King James Version in most Protestant churches. The Revised Standard Version was controversial in ways that I didn't understand as a young child. But the reason for its controversy was due to the fact that the translations had been changed in some verses, including this one, which says, Behold, a young woman shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. A young woman, not a virgin. Why the confusion? And why was the Revised Standard Version rejected by most conservative churches around the country, which chose instead to retain the King James Version? The reason is this, is that the translation of Isaiah 7:14 is ambiguous. The word in question is in Hebrew, Alma, which means a young maiden or young girl who may or may not be a virgin. That's the way it reads in the original Hebrew text. However, when the Hebrew Bible is translated into the Greek, for what we now know as the Septuagint, the Bible that is most commonly quoted in the New Testament, in order to accommodate the thousands of Jews that were living in the Greek world at that time, the translators of the Septuagint, 70 scholars, unanimously agreed that the word Alma should be translated as virgin. The reasoning was obvious. The context of the word suggested that this birth would be clearly unique, if not miraculous. Not only that, to say that the word Alma only means young maiden or young girl would be like saying nothing at all. After all, most births were the result of a young girl giving birth. Most young mothers were in their teens at the time, so there was nothing to distinguish that birth from another birth. So the translators thought that clearly more was implied in the word Alma, as it is in other contexts of the Old Testament, and they chose unanimously, all 70 of them, to translate it as virgin. That translation stood the test of time until the modern era, when those who were more liberal theological bent, who didn't really believe in the supernatural or miracles, began to challenge this doctrine. They looked to the Old Testament Hebrew and said, that word Alma does not mean virgin. There is a specific word for virgin, and that word is Betula. And since Isaiah did not use that word, he clearly didn't mean virgin. Other translators who are more conservative bent responded by saying that those two terms, Alma and Betula, have overlapping meanings, and in order to understand the meaning of a specific verse, you have to look at the context. In any event, the conservative churches in recent years have published new editions of the scriptures in new translations, including the one that I use for teaching here at St. Matthew's Church, the New International Version, which retains the old translation of Isaiah 7:14. Well, regardless of where you stand on this issue, one thing is for certain. The birth of a child always brings us hope for the future, always brings us great expectations for a better tomorrow. That is certainly true for the birth of Jesus Christ. We look to that day, December 25th, the day we celebrate his birth, as a day of great celebration, for it brings us hope, hope for the future, hope for our lives, hope for the world that we live in. And for that, we should all be very happy and very merry. And to all of you this season, we bid you here at St. Matthew's Church a very Merry Christmas. Thank you for watching.